Okay, so my project kind of stems from the fact that every year I feel like there's more and more kids that just can't sit still. And even as an adult, it's really hard if we were to think about sitting still for 6 hours every day. That's something that's not really feasible. And when they come in our district, our elementary school is K-6, so 7th grade is their first year without recess and without a break. And so all that pent-up energy, especially by the end of the day, is hard to contain. And while I'd had some success with just allowing kids to stand in the back or walk around, when I saw another classroom redesign project this summer at the Summer Institute, I was like, oh, I could hopefully get a grant and maybe get some things to help my students feel a little more comfortable and be able to get their bodies moving a little bit more, and hopefully that would turn into more focus and more engagement in math class. So that was my problem, basically, was trying to keep them engaged and keep them focused, keep all 4 legs on the floor instead of rocking back and forth. I'm sure we all know about that. One of the things that I'd seen when I was looking into some research as to what is some of the best things to use, because I can't get rid of all my desks. Like some other teachers I've been able to see, they don't have any desk, and that's not really feasible in the 7th grade classroom, because eventually I'm going to have to haul them all back out for testing purposes, and where are we going to put the 22 desks in the meantime. And so these bouncy bands I came across seemed like a great solution that would enable me to still maintain some of the desks that we currently have, but allow them some movement. And so what happens is they can put their feet on the bands and they can just bounce away to their little heart's content, and it doesn't make any noise. And so nobody else is disturbed. There's no toe tapping going on that drives me bonkers, and they can just bounce away. And so I have 2 lovely ladies here that are in my class. Maddie really enjoys the bouncy bands. Do you all want to talk about that a little bit? Sure. Okay, come on. What do you think about the bouncy bands?
Okay. So everyone enjoys using the bouncy bands, and it's really nice for people who constantly fidget their feet without, like she said, disturbing others. I like using them a lot. And they're really nice.
And does it help with the stress sometimes?
Yes.
So one of the things I noticed too, where kids get nervous when they're taking tests or if they're working with you, and so you'll see their feet like flying on test day. So that was one thing. We only ordered 10 to start with, just to see if they would like them. Or my biggest concern was I'd only seen them in elementary schools. So how was that going to hold up to our bigger 7th grade kids? But they've held up really well, and so we have more ordered to fill all the rest of the disc. The next part are the standing desk, which Maddie also likes as well, but we had a slight issue, so now she just sticks to the bouncy bands. In the original grant, if you were to order a standing desk from a company, you're looking at about $200 minimum. And so in the original grant, I had just a couple of standing desks wrote in, and there really wasn't, the bouncy bands are pretty cheap, so there really wasn't much else to put in there. But our maintenance staff is awesome, and they came up with this idea. And so you can see it's one countertop, and they've cut it into 4 sections, and they mounted them on this wall. Now the problem with this wall, though, is that it's a fake wall. And so if it's not on one of the supports, like this desk isn't, then they can't really lean on them, or it's going to come off the wall. But it's really just that desk. The rest of them are okay. And so that was Maddie's issue. She's afraid they're going to fall now, so she just sticks to the bouncy bands. but they're fine. None of them have fallen. There's just a little minor crack in the wall. So if you are going to do this, make sure it's a real wall, or you're finding a stud or something to put on there. But the good thing is all that cost about $100 versus the $600 that was originally projected for the standing desk, and you don't lose any floor space. So my room is one of the smallest rooms in the building, which is what makes it a little more complicated to do, and so having these mounted on the wall was useful, because now that opened up the floor space for something that wasn't originally intended because the money wasn't there and the space wasn't there. But then we were able to get this awesome rug, which is Kelsey's favorite place. So you want to talk about the rug, Kelsey? She's on it every morning.
I really enjoy the rug because I'm not one of those people that can sit still for very long in a straight up chair. It just bothers me and I get sore and then I start to want to get up and walk around. But on the rug we can just sit on the rug or you can lay down, and it still works for testing days because we can put 4 people on the rug and put them in each corner, so it still works on testing days.
Yeah, so they have a great time. There's usually in the morning class, there's about 7 girls that are on the rug normally, and they can spread all their stuff out, and they're great. The rug, of course, was not the original rug I would have picked out, but the students voted, and so we ended up with a tie-dye glow-in-the-dark rug, although it doesn't glow really well, but it says it's supposed to. But we ended up being able to get a larger rug, and so with this configuration, you can see we still have some desks. We have bouncy bands on the desk, and then the standing desk are in the back. So we're still able to use a small space to kind of give some options to allow them to move a little bit more, and they change. Some kids will stand some days, sit other days. Some kids might be on the rug, and it also kind of depends on what they're doing. Like when they get to work, some of the people on the rug will move to a desk because they feel like they can work better there, or they might go stand, or just depending on how it goes. So it's interesting to see how they do move around the room, and I think it makes it feel a little bit more like home. Do you all agree? Yeah. So you don't really feel so much like you're in a classroom if you're able to sit where you would sit at home to do your work. So some behaviors prior to the additions was there was one particular student, every single morning I would have to walk by and like kick the desk or something and wake them up. Like they were always nodding off every morning. Repetitively throughout the day, you're telling kids to put their chairs down so they don't fall backwards and hit their head because they're rocking in their chair. Frequent bathroom trips, or they're going to get up and throw something away that doesn't need to be thrown away. They just rip out a piece of paper out of their binder and wad it up just because they want to get up and move. They're tired of sitting all the time. And then your constant reminders to stay on task. So there's not like concrete data here, but it's our observational data. So this is what it was before the additions. And then this was a phased process. So as things came in, we would put them up. The bouncy bands were first, then the standing desk, and then the rug. But after these additions, I don't have to wake that first period student up anymore. So that's a positive. Because if they are starting to fall asleep, you can always urge them to the standing desk, and then that's going to wake them up a little bit. But I don't have to do that to him anymore. There's only one student that I have to tell to put their chair down, and I'm sure you two know who that is. But he, even with the bouncy band, he likes to lean back and put his feet on the bouncy band. But he's a special case. So, but there's only one now, not multiple ones. And I have less people that ask to go to the restroom on a frequent basis. So that was a big thing because I don't like to tell students, no, you can't go. But at the same time, if you're going to the bathroom, you're missing out on instruction. So there's very few that go in the morning at all. And then in the afternoon, of course, it's after lunch. But it's definitely went down. And I don't have that roaming around the room to throw away trash. People like where they are. They like it so much that with my student teacher, they would have him go get things for them around the room. So they wouldn't have to leave the rug or leave their bouncy band, or they're comfortable where they are now. So that was interesting. And so I've heard, these are when I ask the students what they like or why they like it, here's some responses. So one girl told me that the bouncy bands make them feel less nervous when they're taking a test. They like the option to stand after they've sat all day. So my later class periods, the standing desk are used a lot more than in the beginning of the day. It makes them feel like they're at home. The bouncy bands help them focus. And if you sit at a desk with a bouncy band, it really does there's something going on there. Makes a difference. And I have lots of past students that come to the door like, why didn't we have these when I would like to stand? And I'm sure they would have. But that's what they say. Now, what do I say? I feel like the students are more energized. And so instead of walking into math like, oh, it's math class, I mean, they probably still think that in their head. But they're a little more engaged and they're a little more energized. Yeah, this is my morning rug, girls, right here. And, but I do feel like the bouncy bands are utilized the most. So even if you don't feel like you have the space or the funds to kind of totally revamp and you still have some kids that you think could really benefit, bouncybands.com is where you get those. They're cheap. They come in super fast. They do POs, and that would definitely be where you could start if you're looking for a way to help engage and stay focused. Any questions? Okay, thank you.